A lot of it would go to the top 1%. Pay attention here. Folks making more than $3 million a year, the top 1/10 of 1%, they would get a tax cut under Mr. Romney's plan that is worth almost $250,000. $250,000 they would save under his plan. Hold on, it gets worse. My opponent says he's going to pay for this $5 trillion plan. But under this plan, guess who gets the bill for these $250,000 tax cuts? You do. And you don't have to take my word for it. Just today, an independent, nonpartisan organization, they crunched all the numbers. They looked at his plan. This wasn't me. This wasn't my team. This was an independent group. One of the guys who did the analysis used to work for Bush. So they found that if Governor Romney wants to keep his word and pay for this plan of this $5 trillion tax cut, the only way to do it is to cut tax breaks that you, middle-class families, depend on. The home mortgage deduction you use to pay for your home. The health care deduction that your employers use to provide you health care. Some of the tax credits we put in place to send your kids to college. What this means is the average middle-class family with children would be hit with a tax increase of more than $2,000. Now, I think a lot of people are willing to sacrifice to bring down the deficit, to defend our country, but he's not asking you to contribute more to pay down the deficit. He's not asking you to do it to invest. Let me make sure people understand this. They're asking you to pay an extra $2,000 not to pay down the deficit, not to invest in our kids' education. Mr. Romney's asking you to pay more so that people like him get a tax cut. In order to afford, now we can break it down further. In order to afford just a tax cut for somebody like Mr. Romney, 125 families like yours would have to pay another $2,000 in taxes each year. And every year. Not just 1 year, every year. Now, does that sound like a plan you can afford? How many people like that plan? Does that sound like the kind of future that our country can afford? Ohio, we do not need more tax cuts for the wealthiest Americans. We need tax cuts for working Americans. We need tax cuts for families who are trying to raise their kids and trying to keep them healthy and trying to send them to college and trying to put a roof over their heads. We don't need tax breaks for companies that are shipping jobs overseas. We need tax breaks for companies that are investing here in Akron, Ohio. That's the choice in this election, and that's why I'm running for President of the United States. Four years ago, I promised middle-class tax cuts. I kept that promise. The typical family is paying about $3,600 less in taxes than they were when I came into office. So what I've said is, let's keep taxes exactly where they are on the first $250,000 of everybody's income. So if your family makes under $250,000, like 98% of Americans do, you won't see your income taxes increase by one single dime. Now, if you've been lucky or you've been successful, so that you're in the other 2% of Americans, like I am, all we're asking is that we pay a little bit more so that we can pay down our deficit and so we can invest in things like education that will help us grow. So we're cutting things that don't work. I've already cut $1 trillion worth of spending. But we've got to balance that. And I'm not going to pay for massive new tax cuts for millionaires and billionaires by gutting the investments that we need to keep the middle class strong. I want to make sure we're investing in hiring new teachers, especially in math and science. I want to make sure that we're putting folks back to work, rebuilding our roads and our bridges, our airports. I want to make sure that we're investing in our community colleges so they can train people for the jobs that businesses are hiring for right now. I want to make sure we're investing in basic science and research to keep our technological edge. And if we're going to bring down our deficit and do those things and make sure that Medicare is there for our seniors and make sure Social Security is there for our seniors, then we've got to make choices. And all I'm asking is that folks like me and Mr. Romney go back to the rates that we paid under Bill Clinton. And if you remember, that was when the economy created nearly 23 million new jobs, the biggest budget surplus in history, and here's the kicker, it was good for folks at the top too.